actually believed him. He was a mover, and he saw the business and didn't know what it was, ripped it off, and threw it to the ground. And he claimed he did not know what that item was. But he was open to education. And so we had him take a guided tour at the Museum of Jewish Heritage with a tour guide. He did a 2-hour tour. He wrote a reflection piece. And he was very open to learning about what he did and the cost of it and the impact it had on that community. And I think that was probably more valuable than something more punitive. But these are very, very difficult questions. We do our best to try to have a holistic approach, so we don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution. And of course, restorative justice we've done on a handful of our hate crime cases, and that's worked out sometimes beautifully, right? It's a conversation moderated by a social worker between the defendant and the victim. We were able to do that on one particular anti-Semitic case. The victim has to be open to it, they have to be willing participants, and the defendant has to be a willing participant. I mean, this one particular case, they both learned something from the other, and that is our best case scenario. But these are some of our most difficult questions.
Let me, you mentioned before the issue of mental health. And a very large percentage of these crimes are committed by people with mental health issues. I'd like to step away a little bit from hate crimes. Hate crime is a category, and it's not affecting that many, not affecting that many people. I want to really address the issue of permissibility of hate within our society. And that's something communities can really get involved in. Now, people with mental health, it is the belief of those who are professionals that the people who commit many of these crimes are deeply affected by messaging they're going to get from media, whether social media, standard media, whatever. If there is hate in society, if somebody is, and I'm going to become too political, if somebody is ripping on the Asian community for causing COVID, someone who has mental illness will act out on someone who's Asian because of COVID. If someone is ripping on the issue that affects the Jewish community, someone with mental health issues will attack or cause problems with someone in the Jewish community. Not the case of somebody who takes the box of mezuzah off someone's door. That is a rarity. But the kind of stuff that's happening on a regular basis, obviously you're going to have to go through what happened with the guy who's driving on the line here on the west side of Manhattan. But these happen on a regular basis in mental health. We're going to have to take ownership of the fact that we have bought into and have not actively been involved in pushing back on hate. We have to make sure that not just the NYPD is taking care of it after it happens, but the DA's office takes care of it after it happens. There needs to be public education on a regular basis. The DOE is involved with that. I know that Reverend Graff is involved with some of the hidden voices. They have another curriculum that are going to be teaching young people about other people's culture and lending dignity to other people's culture rather than hearing from social media consistently that the other people's culture are the enemy and are dangerous and are out to kill you. So we're going to have to make sure in our houses of worship that those in charge of our houses of worship, whether it be the pastor, the rabbi, the imam, or what have you, and everyone else in that food chain, so to speak, becomes arbiters or don't become arbiters of hate, they become sowers of understanding and dignity. They have to work on it as well. It has to happen in each and every part of our society. And if we see someone has mental health issues, we have to do what we need to do to get people mental health intervention. We gotta take care of people before they act out. So, we got a lot of brokenness in our society. And what we tend to do as Americans is we tend to lay it off on somebody else. It is somebody else's problem. Well, guess what? It is our problem. And then we have to work together. We have to have more of these type of opportunities. We have to get to know each other. I'm so glad that the DA's office has the kind of intervention from a prosecutorial point of view and from a community point of view. But we're going to have to make sure that communities are working on councils like this to be able to be effective in diffusing the permissibility of hate. Because frankly, there's too many people that are using hate as a tool for political ends, for cultural ends, and for other ends in the context of our society.
Thank you. Brother Aday, and then you can pass it to Assistant President.
My name is historical Mr. Malcolm Shabazz. Pardon us for being late. I'm the one on this. So I'm glad that I was able to come. We're a little more than a stone throw away from here on 116th Street and Malcolm and everyone in historical Mr. Malcolm Shabazz. We do have some parishioners at the church venue, and we need transportation and want to have to leave. However, some members of our congregation, they can stay at the back. We just got out there, I'm pretty sure this is the out there, still going on. Because when we left, they was having a jazz festival right in front of the cultural center, and along with the table. So at 6 o'clock, we start ready. I'll give you the probably ending a little later, so if you would like to swing on by, you're welcome to do so. But I definitely have to go to the Baptist church. Please, I just want to thank everybody. Thank you so much for the hospitality. And this will not be the last time I will be here. God willing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Danielle Williams, resident of Harlem, and I'm with the Interfaith Center of New York. And my question to you is, what are the strategies for navigating the patterns of particular communities underreporting hate crimes? And how has that added on to the analysis of the data that you are able to gather? And then my second question is for both of you, is, there's discussions around, there's change, the change in the communities, and how that can lead to various isms and misunderstandings and hate, right? And some of the things that came to my mind when I think about some of the changes, it's changes also rooted in an injustice. And I think about the poem, A Dream Deferred. A Dream Deferred. What happens to a dream deferred? And so as we're doing the bridge building in our communities, cross-ethnically, cross-religious tradition, how are we also dealing with the pain and the injustices that particular communities are feeling that, I think people feel a way they do because they feel like their issues aren't being addressed?
I'll start with our strategy for tackling the issue of communities not knowing about our work. When RDA Bragg took office, he changed the landscape of our approach and our strategy. We started being much more open and intentional about spreading the word about our cases. So I'll give you an example. Before the Bragg took office, there was rarely a press release on any kind of case. There were fewer. There were very rare press releases. Today, we are very, very active in issuing press releases about our hate crime cases. We are very active. Our press office is active in making sure that we're talking to news outlets, reporters. There have been many articles that the DA has been interviewed for, or that I've been interviewed for, local, publications, Asian publications, the West Side Rag, Amsterdam News, etc., which, frankly, I didn't see before DA Bragg took office. So there's a much more concerted effort to make sure the word is out, that we care about these cases, we prioritize these Another anecdote, there was an anti-Semitic incident, hate crime incident that happened on the Upper West Side. There were two victims, two Jewish men who were victims. And someone called 911. Police took a while to get there. By the time the police arrived, no one was left behind. So the police left, there was no report taken. It's as if the incident never happened. Our office had met with a rabbi right around the corner, post October 7th. We had a meeting with a particular rabbi at his synagogue. And it was like a meet and greet. He talked about our work. He talked about his congregation's concerns about the rise in anti-Semitism. He called me and said one of my congregants was the victim of a hate crime. What's being done about it? I looked into it. Turned out that's what happened, that 911 was called, police never took a report. He looked into it, he found the perpetrator, he was indicted, and that case was resolved fairly recently. That's the type of community engagement we want to do. Hussein is one of the leaders in the Muslim community. We want to make sure we're doing more with Hussein and other Muslim community leaders, because that's one way we can learn about these incidents and make sure that they're being handled. So I don't know. I hope it's making a difference. I think it is. The numbers we've seen have been up since these concerted efforts, but there's no real way to know.
This is the second part of your question, specifically regarding intra-community conflict. I guess I'll tell you about the neighborhood I grew up on in 169 for Sheridan. This is a one square block community that was predominantly Dominican before like our Dominican community really started coming in there in massive inflow. Like I want to say like around 96, 97 when we moved to that neighborhood. In the beginning, there were no issues until I think the Dominican community hit a critical mass where Dominican youth and Dominican youth, on a daily, weekly basis, there were always issues. This carried on for about 2 years of like people getting jumped, people getting beat up, multiple fights at the basketball courts down the block, multiple issues in school. There would have to be a concerted community effort from like an imam to the mosque, because like we were the newer community in the neighborhood. We were the younger community as far as our young people were concerned. Like there weren't like a lot of like grown teens like in that sense, but like they had to be imams like started going to school, and like some of them imams, the leaders from the mosque. They also went to the neighborhood church. And like they actually had to ask the pastor, like, you need to call some of these kids' parents, and like it needs to be like a true conversation because like we're all in the same community. But us ourselves don't want to like immediately start involving cops, but like we'll have to start calling cops on a daily basis because like this can't happen. Our kids can't live in this community, but also we think your children are perpetuating a lot of the issues. But these I'll kind of fast forward the story when these community meetings started happening as like the neighborhood church, and like some of the parents and some of the students got involved. Well, they were like, oh, there's a lot of Africans just coming into the community and just kind of taking over everything. There's a feeling of a takeover that's happening. So like we feel like that the way to push back against that is, like to make them feel so uncomfortable that they want to move. So there had to be a lot of community healing done with the leaders within the community because of like this cautionary mindset of like this only but so much space and there has to be one group or the other. And what that makes me realize about the whole New York City as a whole, I wasn't even alive by the time of the riots to speak of, but there is this thing as in we're one of the most diverse communities in America and perhaps the world, but we're like so locally segregated in these pockets. And when there's movements of any way in like the population Hispanics in those pockets, it makes them feel extremely uncomfortable because there's not an intentional exposure to these communities. Yet these communities are just there, and if they're just there, you don't actually understand anything about them, then there must be an active threat to your existence, because you also do understand that, well, maybe not understand, but you feel like there's this scarcity mindset of if there's too much of us in this one space, there's too much diversity in this one space, then things will start changing, and they'll start changing for the worse. And that was the belief that happened in my community, and it took like efforts from community leaders on both ends for like also like for Latino Christian leaders to realize like, hey, like this community is getting fed up, and like they're gonna lash out in a really bad way. So we have to also meet this head on. But for our community leaders to say enough is enough, like our youth, they're gonna end up doing something that we're all gonna regret if we as adults don't step into the situation. But oftentimes you see a lot of this lashing out start from like a youth like end of the spectrum. Like, not to say it doesn't happen, like hate attack doesn't happen on adult 40 and up end, but oftentimes it happens from an ignorance lens, from a younger perspective of, I don't know this community, all I hear is the bad from this community, all I hear is the negative stereotypes of this community. And I think to your point, social media and what we living in now in New York, it has a huge role to play in all the division and all the issues going on. When it comes to specifically Muslim communities, Palestinian communities, Israeli communities, Jewish communities, like claim the elephants, there's a lot of social media that's at play that's exacerbating the issue beyond like the pale of understanding. And some of it is not even, most of it is not even real people. It's a bunch of bots, and like when you start looking into where they're from Russia, they're from different countries from around the planet, and us as New Yorkers, we allow like an algorithm to start controlling how we feel about different communities, instead of actually like doing our own homework and understanding like, or maybe saying this issue is so immense and so complex that maybe I'm not going to be able to understand this in one sitting or reading. We're looking at tweets, and like we're looking at Instagram images, we're looking at clips and snapshots, and like now allowing that with social media commentary from like these demagogues online who contextualize these incidents to be like, all right, this is the end all be all, and I must believe everything this demagogue is saying, because they have a way with their words, so like they must be right. And they have a couple anecdotes and a couple clips that they must be right. And I think there has to be immense media literacy that's happening within our school system, within our adult population, and our houses of worship. All media is not good media, but most media these days is trash media. And I think that's what I've come to the realization of, is just like, it's a lot of trash out there. There's more trash, there's more AI slop than like one can fathom. And what are we to do as community if not to like actually sit down and have conversations? And I would say the most intentional exposure I ever had, but again, that's just from a sense of privilege, is my high school experience. That's the first time I sat down and learned anything about Korean culture, Chinese cultures, or Jewish cultures, or Eastern European cultures, because again, I'm from a neighborhood where all my classes were Dominican, Puerto Rican, African American, and West African. That's my understanding of the world. There were some white officers that patrolled the neighborhood. I had a white doctor, and I think I had a Jewish doctor. But that's my understanding of these communities, this exposure from like these standpoints until I go to high school and it's like, oh, like Yom Kippur, I'm taking a day off from school. I don't realize that Jewish students are fasting just like me. On this one day, it looked like it was the year of the fast of Esther. That's very similar in some aspects of Ramadan. But it took me to get to 14 years old, go to high school to like learn like why am I even taking this day off from school, and how it can connect and have similarities to like my community, or like Christian communities or Jewish communities in my community have so much in common in our faiths. It's because I'm not having this conversation just in my own normal neighborhood until I go to high school. But most New York high schools are church-based. Most New York New York middle schools are almost all segregated by like zip code. High school is like the first time like you leave your zip code and like you're off in a foreign land. I'm traveling from the Bronx to Brooklyn, or someone's traveling from Harlem to the Bronx. And like they're meeting new communities for the first time and actually getting exposure to being on the same sports team as someone else that's completely different from you, being in the same classroom, being in the same small group, working on a project. There's not enough intentional exposure in ICD, and the media literacy is at an all-time low, so people just believe everything they see.
So I want to look at quite a bit. Reacting to hate only becomes important after something happens. Something on the news, something gets our attention. We're not into doing the long haul investment that it really takes to be able to do this kind of stuff. You just described, well, 25 years ago, right after 9/11, we got Black History, great year to start with history, right? We brought together about 400 kids because we were really afraid that as we were about to go to war in the Middle East, guess what? There's a war in the Middle East, folks. And it's going to affect us, and we have no effect on it. It's going to happen. And as you said, we're getting all of our information, and a lot of the young people are getting all of their information off of social media, and most of it is geared just to traumatize and inflame. And we don't have the kind of investment within our society. So what we did is we brought together 400 kids. We had this thing called Bridge the Brotherhood. Well, they taught us something. They said, we don't like the word brotherhood because it doesn't speak to us. It's your language. This is 25 years ago. So we formed something called Youth Bridge. Well, Youth Bridge is still around. It brings together maybe 80 kids a year, top kids in schools and high schools, to learn about each other, just the way you described. So I said to my staff, there's got to be other people doing this, right? There has to be another thing, because we can't say we're the only shop in town. Well, we were the only shop in town, 80 kids, because we're not investing in the kinds of education and opportunities to make sure that we are getting young people together to understand that there are other cultures. And we take it for granted. Somebody used the word October 7th before. How many people know what that means? A lot of hands didn't go up. I was at a conference on, like I said, I co-chaired the governor's task force on hate and bias. Conference in Albany on hate and bias. We broke down into different communities. You never should break down into different communities and just talk to each other. Somebody from another community sat down at the table, and she was having a fight with somebody in her community. Didn't want to sit at that table. Sat at our table. We're talking, I thought we're civil, I thought we're civil, I thought we're civil. She raised her hand and said, excuse me, what's October 7th? And we all went, whoa. We take it for granted that people know all about us. The trauma that October 7th was the day that Hamas attacked some folks on the border between Gaza and Israel and murdered 1,200 people. It freaked us out. The biggest death of Jews since the Holocaust. That's what happened. We had to tell her. But we took it for granted. She knew how traumatized we were. She knew about the incident. Well, most people don't. We use code words. Most people don't know what's going on with gun violence in East Flatbush right now. Most people don't know what's happening with health care and the issue of prenatal deaths or postnatal deaths in the black community in New York City. Most people don't know because we aren't talking to each other. We aren't proximate to each other, like you said. They don't know about our holidays. They just know that Muslims, well, they fast, but they're really terrible. They're really terrorists. The fact that they fast, hey, you know, and Ramadan's a time when they're going to come and kill us. No, Ramadan is a time of introspection and spiritual growth. We don't know that. We don't know what Yom Kippur is. We use code language all the time. We have to invest in making sure that leaders have the kind of understanding understanding and knowledge where they can talk to each other in an educated way. We have to invest, and it has to be, as I learned from somebody, Greg Meeks, Congressman Greg Meeks, we have to be consistent and persistent about it. We can't always do it after there's a problem and then just give up a year or two later. It's a long, process of pushing back on all those people that want to see us fight each other. One last quick thing. So there's a story about if you put red ants and black ants in a jar, they get along with each other. Shake up that jar, they start to kill each other. There's lots of people who are interested in shaking up the jar between groups that know how to actually live in communities together. And they're shaking us up on a very regular basis. The problem is we ain't shaking back.
So I just wanted to hop in for a second. The challenge of doing three. No, I'm going to run to the mosque now. So the challenge of doing three simultaneous events, I think is great and ambitious. Means I got to be in three places at once. I just wanted to say thank you, Rabbi Rivera. Thank you to all the panelists. Just the part of this, I guess. That's the collage of folks here being in one room, so many partners who we talk about hate crimes in different conversations, being in one conversation is so powerful and meaningful to me. And I think it's great, credit to Courtney that we're doing this in three places, houses of worship. And so I say that quickly because I'm going to go to the mosque now and then try to get to the church. But it is so great to see everyone in one room having this very meaningful conversation. And so I'm sorry to interrupt and sorry to dash. But hopefully we'll get back, but maybe the conversation will be.
But tell us about your this call for public safety. Is that what you were talking about?
So you know, and I had the conversation so rich, I don't want to interrupt too much, but I will say about hate crimes, I told you it's actually one of the unifying issues because it doesn't discriminate. We'll see it as we get about our time. When I first came into office, anti-AAPI hate crime was the most frequent coronavirus and terrible events or something like that. Then anti-Semitic hate crime is now our main for the last couple of years. We have Islamophobic incidents, also the most recent high-profile trial, which is actually set to change the law, expand the scope of the law, because the Islamophobic incident are number two continuous throughout my time has been anti-LGBTQ. It's always been sort of right there. Has it gone up or down? The second place in the document. And so it's a terrible tie that binds, but it affects depending upon what the discussion is on social media, what the event that has happened of the day, week, year, or decade. It's focused in a narrow way on that, but it affects all of us. As the get a little wonky on this thing, as the preamble to the statute talks about, it's a different kind of crime. Someone who goes out on Frederick Douglass, that's terrible in that case. That hurts us individually, but also generally. But if someone attacks you because of your religion, it is an assault against the entire group. And that's why the legislature recognizes why we have against penalties. We have some cases where, in one case, it is someone who is acting out of animus to two different religions. In the same case, the same act. So I think there's so much more that unifies and signifies us. Even this very issue, which we spend time on, the field device is in fact unifying. So I'm just grateful for all of you for participating in the discussion. And more important than that, equally as important, for the work that we're all doing day to day. So I thank our folks who are working with us on the Integrated Task Force. For those who don't know, you know, I am a Sunday school teacher by weekend. I'm maybe separation of church and state as the elected leader of the DA's office in Manhattan, but I believe a lot of what ails us is in these partnerships. And for us, whether it's reentry programs, food pantries, whether it's hate crimes, the other two locations, one is gun violence and the other is domestic violence and partner violence. All of these issues working in tandem with our faith communities. thank you, and go back, and look at a great conversation, so.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take one last question, and then, I guess yes? Okay. One more question.
Just have a question. It seems like this is completely right. We're all here together. Everybody's talking about the fact that people are in their, on social media, and they're in their own phone. So, any suggestions or thoughts or things you think about? How do we get people off their phone and into these spaces so that we can talk to each other? Because I'm the rabbi's husband. I hear about you all, but I've never met everybody. And it seems so important and so easy, and I know from what I did that it's really very difficult to bring people here. So any thoughts on how to actually bring the community to this sort of conversation?
You're not getting them off the phones. The phone has won. We are addicted. And I want to tell you something. I watch a lot of Instagram because I like to keep up on information. I'm addicted. It's really horrible. Best thing is Shabbat, the Sabbath for me, when I can put it away for 26 hours. Some of us in the Jewish religion don't use electronics for 26 hours. The best days are 3-day holidays, right? Can't use them for 3 days, and I get unaddicted. It's like going cold turkey. It's just there. It's a reality. So the question is, what do we do with that? And I think I heard the Saints say before, we got to offer them alternatives. We got to give them some other information. We got to give them some other reason, because right now they're being fed by folks that know how to feed them. And we're pumping millions, and I want to go back to that investment piece. We're pumping millions and millions and millions of dollars into feeding hate. I defy you to well, I won't defy you, I said. New York City right now spends less than $30 million a year on fighting hate through the Office of the Prevention of Hate Crimes. I'm Commissioner of the Human Rights in Europe. I know how much is being spent. It is a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of stuff that's coming at it. We have to make this a healthcare priority. This is a mental health priority. This is a human priority. DOE is going to have to get the money to make sure that every kid in the DOE is taking the Hidden Voices curriculum to find out, not just the schools that can afford it or the schools that have decided to do it. We're going to have to invest in more youth programs, which are hard to come by. We're going to have to take care of some of the social ills that social media feeds off of on a regular basis. And we're going to have to tell our community and elected officials that you just got to stop spreading hate. And I'm not sure that's going to happen either, because they see it's a very effective tool in getting elected. I'm not even pointing at one person. Everyone likes to point to one person. It has become endemic across society. Endemic. Everyone's doing it. Even the people who espouse are doing it because, well, to work and a place to be a base. We have to take back the streets, so to speak. We have to take back the information flow. We're not going to stop it. We're not going to get them off the phones. We're not going to end the war in the Middle East, by the way, here in New York City. We're not going to end the other wars that are happening. We're not going to end racism. We can knock it down a little bit. We can push it back underneath the rock. Like hate used to be, it used to be unacceptable to be hateful in public. It is now wholly acceptable to be hateful in public. And if we can do that, and it costs a lot of money for us, and the people in green energy, we're going to have to invest in it. We got to have those youth groups out there. We got to have the youth being educated about other people out there. We have to make sure that we are doing the right stuff. We have to make sure the DA's offices, all of them have a robust budget to be able to do this. The NYPD has to have a more robust budget to be able to do this. I think it's great what they do. By the way, if you think I'm anti-cop, I said some stuff about the NYPD. I carry a shield in my pocket. I've been working with the NYPD. I'm a chaplain for the NPAPD. You know, so I am very pro law enforcement. But I know where the shortcomings come. We have to train our community leaders on how to go about doing this. There's some stuff happening out there, really good things. Maybe trains 100 people a year. That's it. Well, we got a consistent basis, and rather than spending $10 million or $20 million to send one rocket up, you know, one missile up, we got to use the money to be able to rework our society so those who are creating those things on Instagram don't have as much ammunition for it.
I'll be super brief. I agree with everything that Rabbi Kaplan was saying. I think that investment that's needed. I think the lowering of the temperature from elected officials, like the inflammatory tweets about different communities to kind of prop up your own platform and win elections, or like to back in the base. It's so fervent right now within the political space. I think I'll just add on with a slightly different angle in community events. I think when I've seen community events growing up, I've seen community events going by a group and a community feeling like this event is only for this group. What I've seen in New York this year is that maybe it's a mixed spirit. Every event is for every group, and like I think making sure that as community leaders of different faiths, whether you're going to a community event that's predominantly to your racial group or immigrant group or faith group, making sure you're intentional about the inviting of your neighbors. For instance, like we're doing a back to school event in the South Bronx on August 30th. Obviously, most of the community network is throwing in, so there's going to be a predominantly West African population. But we've already been talking to the schools and the churches around the area to make sure like our Dominican and Puerto Rican neighbors are also part, because they have the same needs. Their kids need book bags, their kids need books. There's going to be a basketball clinic. Their kids love to play basketball. So people also understand, like, yes, this is a free community event, but if you're not intentionally saying, like, hey, offering an invite and saying, like, come, we're gonna have free food and these things, I don't know if I'm just coming, because, like, I'm not part of that community that's, like, part of the impetus of, like, throwing this. Maybe there's other groups that I know that are, like, sub-sponsors, but I need that main sponsor to come to our community and say, like, no, we want you to come in too, and it's not just for your community. I think I've been to so many different things. Honestly, being a nonprofit leader, where I've seen very integrated like community gatherings. But oftentimes I see like very segregated community gatherings, where it's just like one block of the area that's involved. Everyone else is kind of on the outskirts and just passing by and like maybe taking a picture. But like the power of social media is like now we're having people share these videos on social media rather than anything else that they share, because like you're saying, the phone's never gonna come out of people's hands. But what I've seen this year is a lot of community gatherings, summer streets, Knicks parades, this parade, the Jamaican parade, the Dominican Day parade, and it's just like people like being outside and people like being called to gathering in space where it's gonna be fun and joy. If I'm not called to it, then I'm not going to it, because at the end of the day, we're also New Yorkers, we're standoffish in that way. If you're not inviting me and not calling me to something, I don't know if I would really want to go. So it's just, you really have to call people in and say like, nah, this is for the whole block. This is for everyone that lives here. If you're here, if you got family and friends from another neighborhood, they need to look at, they need something, tell them to come through. This is on all-inclusive space. But people need to understand that it's an all-inclusive space, because there is still that level of fear that, oh, I don't really know if our communities can really get along, regardless if it's a joyous event. So you have to say like, no, like, we're welcoming, please come. And we need to just be more intentional with gathering all communities in our areas to community events and making sure that they all can take part in community events. Asking them questions of what will make you feel comfortable. Is there specific food that we need to have there to make you feel comfortable? It wasn't until recently that people started asking, should we have halal food at events? So you'd be like, yes, that's how you're going to get more Muslims to go to your event. If you don't have halal food, you're going to stay in your house.
Kosher works. Kosher works. We can eat it.
But
Deli.
It's things like that where like people weren't really thinking about things like that. Or like people like, yeah, we put out the flyers and no one's coming to the event. Like, do you ask them what makes them feel the most comfortable? Do you ask them what they need to be participate in this event? Do you ask like what will allow them to be in your space? Is it an invite? Is it food? Is it what's the access issue? But I do think everybody loves to post fun things in their day. If we can start getting people to post more fun things in their day and for their algorithm to view the fun things they're doing, different people like, oh, I didn't know, I got Janet next to somebody in the job. Like it just is like, oh, okay, like it starts to like just like rewind some of the things that people have been seeing over like the past 3 years. Like it's been a really toxic online environment, especially in New York. I mean, it's just time to get back to things were never perfect, but there was a time that communities were actually like a lot more dignified, and like we need to get back to that time where communities can be around each other in dignified ways, where there's understanding. That will eventually lead to love, but there needs to be dignity and understanding first, and that needs to be there, and it needs to be a foundation.
Amen.
Amen. That was perfect answer.
Before there was a DA, before there was Harlem, there was hate. Hate is not new. Hate has been, but before all of that, there has been love. That's why we're here tonight. My name is Reverend Jacques DeGraff. I was one of the architects of this evening's community. I'm a founding member of Harlem. 52 years ago, the idea of celebrating a slum, a ghetto, it got nicer when they called it an urban area, but it was a majority back then. And we came together, people just like the people in this room, came together and said, no, not here. We're going to appoint ourselves. And if we're going to fight hate, then all of us have to appoint ourselves. And we have to break out of the box. What do we mean? We've been sitting here all night. You don't know her name. You don't know her name. Why? Because we didn't introduce ourselves. So what kind of hate group are you, anti-hate group are you going to be when you don't even know who we are? So here's what we're going to do. And I challenge you, I know every one of you is so important, so prominent. This is not a keynote moment. All I want you to do is say your name and some phrase, brief, short phrase that shows your affiliation. So you can say you're a neighbor, a friend, or you were JCC, but we're trying to move on. What is your name?
Mara Tucker.
Did you hear her?
I got one more.
We're trying to fight hate, and we can't be timid about it. We can't be timid. We have to be intentional. That's why we did this.
So,
my mentor in ministry is a man named Y.T. Walker. He was Martin Luther King's chief of staff. We've been fighting hate for a mighty long time. And if we're going to win the fight in hate in Harlem, then we're going to have to be uncomfortable a little. We're going to have to project a little. Why? Because when we leave here and I see you on the street, I want to call you by your name. I want you to recognize and remember that. Are we ready?
yes.
Mara Tucker. I'm the co-chair of Neighbors for a Greener Harlem.
Kate Itzkowitz, I'm a neighbor and a member of the JCC. Naomi Sage, I'm a JCC and I'm also a neighbor.
Justin Perlman from the JCC and West Harlem resident.
Ben Romano, a musician for the JCC and I'm from Brooklyn.
Ellen Levy, a neighbor in this beloved community.
Kareem Khan, or you can just call me Hey You, a supporter, a protector, a defender, and a neighbor in the deep golden rule sense of the Muslim community and all our neighbors. And we should all invite each other to support each other's events, at whatever level, our comfort level, because if we're part of a beloved, responsible, believing community, we have to
So that was the keynote. Okay.
I'm Jerry, I'm a musician here, and I'm Rabbi Meira's husband.
Javon Collins, I'm a housing advocate.
I'm Jalal Shah Taylor. I'm a member of the Masjid Malcolm Shabazz.
And Quadrito Waziri, and I'm a member of Malcolm Shabazz Mosque.
Danielle Williams, I'm a resident in the Interfaith Center of New York.
Dr. Holmes, I'm the pastor of St. John's Baptist Church in Harlem.
Hussein Yardberry, I'm a son, a brother, and a something like the Muslim community.
Anna Yu, I'm daughter of immigrants and Justice Speaker.
Bob Kaplan, I'm a community organizer.
Serene Lawson, I'm your favorite auntie and a faith and justice advocate.
Don't you feel better?
Yes.
Okay. Lenora?
I'm Lenora Hill. I work here at UC Harlem. I'm a neighbor, and I am a student at Union Theological Seminary.
I'm Ty Norris. I'm a community coordinator here at JCC. I'm Kurt Hill Jr., neighbor, friend, supporter of JCC, and Nora Hill.
Yes, sir. Mister? Thank you.
I'm Gio. I'm with Danny. I'm a Bronx native.
Danny, of course, being the district attorney of New York. The reason we did that is because we need to leave here better than we came, number one. Number two, this office, we're talking about the district attorney's office, they do more than what we've heard tonight. So it's been my privilege every year when the new ADAs come, the assistant district attorney, they have about 95, they come up to Harlem and they sit and they have Harlem leaders come and meet with them. And we tell them that it ain't like law and order. That you need to know some folk. You need to listen and pay attention. So before I go, I was supposed to speak before the DA. He was in a rush. I could have gone with him, but I wanted to talk to you because tonight is so important because it's the only night we have. In America at this time, there are people who are working to divide us every day. They talk about red and blue, conservative and liberal, progressive and up and down, but we have to make the final call. We have to make the decision that we don't buy into that all of we is one. And in Harlem, it's going to begin here. And so we've heard the particulars about the processes, the regulations, the programs, but it's bigger than that. It has to begin right here. Each of us has a little badge of pain, a little bag of pain from our journey to get here. Okay, the question is, when we put our bag of pain on the floor, can we receive someone else's? Can we lift each other up? That's what tonight is about. It's the inaugural Harlem Night. We started at JCC, and thank you to Naomi and her team for hosting us, for kicking us off. Then we're going over to what used to be Lenox Avenue, and then we're going to find our way to 145th Street. And the idea is neighbors have to come together. Neighbors have to look each other in the eye. Neighbors have to dig down deep so that eventually we can have these tough conversations. It's not just about presentations, it's about listening and speaking and hearing and feeling one another. I've got to go because I got to catch up to them, God's willing. But when we do these things, it has been proven time and time again, when we push past our fears, hold on to our faith, that for all of us and for Harlem, the best is yet to come. God bless you.
God bless you.
Okay, well, gosh, you can't really say anything. But what I will say is one of the most powerful ways that I know for people to come together is through song. And we started our thing together with a whole room full of, for those of you who were here, we had a room full of kids and joyful songs. We dug into some pretty deep discussion and we wanted to close out our evening in song.
Okay.
And so I feel very blessed that I have two musicians in residence here right next to me, Jerry Portman and Ben Romano. And actually, Kurt, I didn't know that you would be here tonight, but I feel that you're about to be volunteered to join in But Jerry and some of these will be very familiar to you because Kirk has sung with us before. But we hope that if you have it in you to say a little bit, Jerry and Ben are prepared to lead us in song. And I just want to thank everyone for coming in. It's our hope here at JCC Harlem, which is all of our hope, and I hope that there will be many more evenings like this to come. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, no.
I think we should start with everyone. Yes.
Should we make our circle around?